Saigon John here with the Fantasy Basketball Report for Octane Infinity TV exclusively at YouTube.com. We have now completed 3 weeks of IFBLO Fantasy Basketball action. Let's see how our teams did. The first matchup is Evan versus Edwin. Evan coming off a huge upset victory over the champ last week. Took on the league commissioner in week 3. Edwin's team showed us what we saw last year in his squad, and that is that his team could certainly light up a scoreboard. And points was not even close between these two GMs. Edwin went on to blast the opposition in threes as well as assists while sacrificing turnovers. Evan would get wins in field goal percentage as well, but that's all he would get from Edwin. Monte Ellis for Edwin led all scorers in this matchup with 98 points. Wilson Chandler and Steven Jackson also made significant contributions for Edwin's team as well. Evan just got annihilated this week. He loses this week to Edwin 7-2. Up next is Jonas versus Evil Mike. These two teams were at the bottom of the Asian division after last week, hoping to move up. Evil Mike, after making 15 moves last week, only makes 5 moves this week as he faced Jonas. And the team he has assembled just could not match up offensively. Jonas swept all 3 shooting categories. He won scoring, steals, and turnovers as well, with Zach Randolph and Dwight Howard combining for 78 boards. Evil Mike took the win in rebounds. D12 also led everyone in blocks, securing the win for Evil Mike there. And with 4 pretty good point guards on his team, Evil Mike also won an assist. In really what appears to be a lopsided matchup, Jonas gets his first head-to-head victory this season, defeating Evil Mike 6-3. Moving on, it's Chris versus Good Mike. Chris, the XO2 man, coming off a monster week last week over Jonas, looked to continue his streak against Good Mike, who was at the bottom of the American division after last week. Both GMs were pretty competitive throughout this week, though, but it seemed Good Mike slept on Friday, the Friday schedule. He benched 4 of his eligible players. Sorry, I had to bring that up, Twist. Meanwhile, Chris would get spectacular numbers throughout the week from Kevin Love. Timberwolves playing 4 games this week. He got double-doubles in 3 of those matchups, including a memorable 31-31 night at home against the Knicks on Friday. With that said, Chris won both scoring and rebounding for the week. He also won field goal percentage because Good Mike couldn't even get 42% from his team on the floor. But this is a 9-category league. Good Mike squeezed out he squeezed out the very close victories in the other 2 shooting categories. He beat Chris from the foul line. Mike, you want to know about this? I'm pretty sure you've seen this by now, but after we left Buffalo Wild Wings tonight, you weren't sure you had nabbed the free throw percentage category, but all those trips that Steve Nash made at the line in the closing minutes of that Laker game put you over the top, my friend. And you win that category by just 0.3%. How cool is that? And Chris lost 3-pointers by just 2, and Nash was also a contributing factor as well there, as he made 2 against the Lakers tonight. So with convincing wins in assists, steals, blocks, and turnovers, Good Mike comes out the big winner this week. He defeats Chris 6-3. Adam took on Scott in week 3. The defending champ had his work cut out for him, with Hacksaw's team leading the American division in the standings after last week. Let's start with the offense. Other than winning assists, Scott's team was dominated in all the shooting categories along with scoring. The story of the week for this matchup was Paul Millsap for Adam. That guy just totally went off. The Utah Jazz forward scored 46 points in that Tuesday victory at Miami and was perfect 3 for 3 behind the arc, where he's only made 2 in his entire career prior to that night. just sick. And really, Millsap did all the damage for Adam this week. The Jazz had 4 games in the week, so he shot 62% for the week, in addition to 80% at the line. This week, let's see. Yeah, this was pretty good for Adam, but very bad for Scott. Scott, out of LeBron James, got 36% from the field, contributing easily to the league's worst shooting in fantasy basketball in our league. He was lucky to get 40% out of his team. And really, even luckier, he didn't get more of a beating overall from Adam. Adam's team got 4 steals tonight, but that was good enough only to tie Scott in that category. So no loss for Scott there, but he does lose this head-to-head matchup overall with 1 tie. Adam wins this matchup 5-3. And finally, it's Rene taking on my team. I would call this a rivalry, but seemingly Rene somehow comes out victorious over me every time we meet. Um, Rene led early in this week. We kind of seesawed a little bit throughout the week, but after Saturday, he led 5-4. I had some catching up to do today in the percentage categories. I thought both were pretty close, but got bad shooting from Russell Westbrook earlier in the Oklahoma City-San Antonio match, so that pretty much sealed my fate in those percentage categories. Let's see, both. Yeah, I didn't have the luxury of resting any of my players. I had to play everybody today to maintain some narrow leads that I had in my matchup. I had 7 eligible to play tonight, minus 1 Yao Ming, who is on the shelf with a left ankle injury. And word is he'll probably be out for the next week, so I won't have him for week 4. But Sunday's action, Rene had 3 guys tonight. With the possibility of adding to his lead over me, if he could get his players to hit his threes. It came down to the last matchup for the week. The Lakers hosted Phoenix tonight, and the again focus would be on 3-pointers made. While the percentage categories, as I mentioned, were close, Rene had a lock in both field goals and free throws before the Suns-Laker game. So I just had to save myself from one more loss. I was already down 5-4, so that was pretty much it for head-to-head. But I didn't want to lose in threes. I was up by 4 in threes before the Phoenix-LA game. Not really safe considering Rene had Jason Richardson, because he has one of those nights where he just absolutely goes off, and today wasn't any different. That guy's shooting was off the hook. Richardson led the Suns to victory with 35 points tonight, and of those 35, in all of his shooting, he made a whopping 7 3-pointers. Good God. Anyways, from my team, though, I had the struggling Hito Turkoglu for me in an attempt to save me, and he did just that. He hit 5 3-pointers in the game against the Lakers. So instead of losing to Rene 6-3, I lose only 5-4. Let's look at the league leaders now. 3 GMs led the league in 2 categories apiece. Jonas led at the foul line and at threes. Edwin led in scoring and steals, while Good Mike led in assists and turnovers, which is very, very hard to do. Rounding out the league leaders, Adam led in field goal percentage, Evan led in rebounds, and Evil Mike edged out Rene for the league lead in block shots this week by just 1. So let's take a look at the standings now. Edwin now leads the Asian division with a 15-11 record. I trail him by just 1 game. Rene is third with a 13-13 record, followed by Jonas and Evil Mike. In the American division, Adam now takes over the lead with a 15-11 record. Scott's very close at 14-11. Then Good Mike is at 13-13 for third place. Chris slips to fourth place. And after getting whooped by Edwin, Evan is in last place with a record of 11-16. Only Evil Mike has a worse record in our league with 10-16 record. Let's move on to week 4. The matchups we're going to see next week will be Jonas taking on Evan. Scott will take on Rene. Good Mike faces Adam. Edwin faces Evil Mike, and I take on Chris. So, what do we look forward to with these teams? We look to the waiver wire. Scott dropped Michael Beasley and added the center of the Oklahoma City Thunder, Serge Ibaka. Evil Mike dropped Mike Bibby, Andres Biedrus, and Tony Douglas, while he adds Rodney Stuckey, Antoine Jameson, and Francisco Garcia. The Cobra Kai now, as I mentioned earlier, is now at 20 moves for the season. Evan dropped the injured Greg Oden and Leandro Barbosa, as as well as Marcus Thornton and Jermaine O'Neal. He added the recent free agent Andres Biedrus that was dropped by Mike, as well as Jarrett Jack, and he picked up two injured players. A little puzzling, but he got Ronny Turioff and Baron Davis. Both players, Evan will claim to be calculated investments, so let's see how that works out for him. Jonas dropped Carl Landry and added Taj Gibson, and finally Edwin dropped the injured Linus Kleza and added the guy that Scott dropped, Michael Beasley. Well, week 4 should make for interesting things in basketball. Until next week, this has been Saigon John with the Hoosier Daddy. Thanks for watching, and boom goes the dynamite.